Start with introductions. I'm Jamie. I am the team lead of Team 10464, the Bionic Tigers, as well as a Dean's List finalist for the 2024 competition. Forgot what year we were in there.
I'm Alex, I'm the programming lead.
I'm Erin, I'm a
I'm-
programmer.
I'm Malia. I'm a member of the programming team, and I'm also our junior team lead.
All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, or middle of the night from wherever you are. Welcome to our workshop on FTC awards and team basics. We're going to start with a little bit of information about our team. So we are a 10th year team. We currently have 9 members. And as you can see, we have some experience in the FTC world. We've won a couple of awards, qualified for Worlds a few times, and we were an Ohio Showcase team for 8 years in a row. These workshops are something that we've designed and we do yearly to kind of impart some of our learnings from our 10 years of experience to rookie or younger teams out there, teach you a little bit about how FIRST works, how FTC works, so that you can do more time building robots, doing outreach, winning awards, instead of trying to learn all of this as you go. Today's workshop is on FTC awards and team basics, and we have one more in the series, which is about FTC programming in Kotlin. That will be next week on August 7th. Today, we are going to go over just a few things. We're going to start with team organization and identity, talk a little bit about the in-person competition structure, the engineering portfolio and how that works, as well as an overview of the judged awards. First, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping with general FTC things, starting with the first ethos of gracious professionalism, which is, at its core, the concept that FIRST is a community before it is a competition. So when you're out there at your competitions during the season, you're not competing against other teams. They are not your enemy, but you are all competing together as a community against the game. Every single participant in FIRST has the goal of working alongside all other participants in order to improve as individuals, as teams, and as a whole community. We are all out here to make ourselves, the people around us, and the world just a little bit better. It is a super important thing. It is what holds FIRST together. All of FIRST is based around this ethos. It's what makes us different from other robotics programs, other competitive activities, and it is required for all awards. So if you're not showing gracious professionalism, you will be penalized for that and you will not be eligible for awards. Or if you're going above and beyond with your gracious professionalism, it will give you a little bit of a boost in the judging room. And then we also have some game documents. So in the past years, they've been called game manuals. You have Game Manual 1 and Game Manual 2. Game Manual 1 is released first and contains general rules, followed by game-specific rules. This year, what has been released just today was called a competition manual. It is one single document that will be regularly updated and contains all of the rules that have been released. Obviously, there's going to be a pretty big update at kickoff. Malia just dropped the link to the competition manual in the chat. Thank you so much. So highly recommend looking at that. Like I said, it will update regularly, so you might see some changes. Definitely keep up with that, as everything about the competition is subject to change based on what is posted in that document.
All right, so next we're going to be talking about team organization and identity. So first, let's talk about team structure. So team structure is kind of the way you organize things. In the beginning, you heard us refer to as like members of the programming team, or I'm a business lead, or I'm a build lead, or a team lead. So that's kind of how we do it. You can switch things up. But we have a team lead, we have 2 sub-team leads, and then we have sub-team members for each respective sub-team. So that's kind of, we have a little diagram of how we have that set up over there. So Jamie is our team lead. We have Grant, who's not here, is our build lead, and Alex, who is our programming lead. And then we have members who they belong to those respective sub-teams, and they can go to their lead for help, or they can go to the team lead for help. We don't have a business sub team, but we have in the past years. But we kind of think that business is an important skill that everyone should have. So all team members have some responsibilities to help with sponsorships, outreach, and other business activities. And mostly that is spearheaded by the team lead. But yeah, I would say it's really important to create structure near the beginning of the season, just so you can kind of get things fleshed out and organized and then not have to worry about that when competition season comes near. And also, most importantly, this does not have to be completely concrete, and a flexible structures helps maximize each student's abilities and interests. For example, if there was someone on the build team who was interested in programming, they could spend a day working with one of the programming members and learn some skills so that, say, if competition season comes around and there's a problem with the program on the robot, but then there's no programmers there, that person has the skills to be able to fix that. We also do this by at the start of every season, we have members from all sub teams, not just build prototype mechanisms on our robot. So that's a little bit about team structure. And here's how team management. There's a lot of things you've got to do in robotics to keep your team up and running. So here's a little bit about how we manage all these tasks. So we use something called Scrum, which is a project-based management tool. At the start of every meeting, we stand up for around 15 minutes and we use Scrum. We have these little almost note cards, they're tasks, and we go through each of them. We assess how people are doing to them. They can be assigned to different people or different sub-teams. And we kind of just talk through it, see if anyone needs any help, how they can get that help, and then move on to the next task. And we use Notion for that, but you can also use Trello. So Trello is really awesome for beginners. It's free, it's simple, and there are customizable options, which are always really helpful. But it also does have kind of limited uses. So if you want to get a little more advanced, that's when you might want to be looking into Notion. Notion has a really wide range of abilities and it's really adaptable, but it's also complicated and the free account has limited storage, which when you've got a lot of tasks to do, that can kind of be a problem. And here's an example of what some of our Trello and Notion pages have looked like in the past. We use Notion now because we get a sponsorship from them, so we can get a free premium account. But Trello is also really awesome if you don't have the time or resources to apply for a sponsorship or pay for that membership. And we'll also talk about team branding. So if you've ever been to a FTC competition, there might be, I personally think sometimes there are teams that just stand out. And I think it's because of the team branding, having consistency of presentations, pit displays, your robot, the theme of the colors on the robot, social media, and your portfolio can really make your team a memorable team. You can stand out to the judges, you can stand out to other teams in your competition, and really just be memorable, and kind of build yourself up build a name for yourself, essentially. So some things to consider, fonts, which font are you using? Make that consistent throughout, like social media posts, for example, like infographics. Color, we had the color hex code there. We use that that's on our t-shirt, that's on pretty much everything we have. And also logo, we have a logo. It doesn't have to be as complicated as ours, but just having a nice little logo can be really memorable. And also apparel, keep consistent with that. You can put your logo on it, use those different colors, use those fonts, kind of just put everything into practice. And also team spirit, so be recognizable, like I said, make a name for yourself, coordinate what you wear, your pit displays in your robot, and just make sure you're conducting yourself with gracious professionalism and just being a nice person. So you can see over here, we've all got the same shirts on, we've all got our team shirt, we all wear jeans, and we all have a headband. So that's kind of like an example of what we wear. You could wear a special coat or something. And also be active in your community, your school, city, state, even the world, and be active within the FTC community. So be engaged, essentially. And any questions? You can type those in the chat or you can say them out loud if you'd like.
Like Malia said, we've come to our first question break. You can unmute and say those out loud. You can type them in the chat. We do have the chat monitored. So at any point, if you have a question, you can type that in there and it will be read out during the question break. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. There are no such thing as stupid questions. We would love to tell you anything that you would like to know. All right, looks like we don't have any questions, so we are going to move on.
Your first in-person competition. In FTC, there are 5 different types of competitions. Scrimmages are for practice and don't allow you to advance to the next level, which would be regionals. League meets are only hosted in some regions and can allow you to advance to the regional tournament. Qualifying tournaments allow you to advance depending on which awards you win. Regional tournaments are hosted by qualifying tournaments and are the only type of competition that allows you to advance to worlds. Preparing for a competition is very important. There are a wide variety of things that you can do to prepare. Some things that you can do are several weeks ahead, which include creating a judging/presentation script, looking over your portfolio and making sure it's up to date, planning your pit area, and creating a packing list with extra items that could break. About a week before the competition, you should focus on practicing judging and driving. You should also prepare everything you're going to need, such as your portfolio, pit display, and the packing list that you created earlier. Being prepared really makes a difference in competitions. A rough outline for a qualifier goes like this. The first thing that you do is check in, set up your pits, go through the robot inspection, and practice anything that you need to. There's going to be some time before judging and drivers meeting, so use it. After the drivers meeting is the opening ceremony where the teams in the first few matches are queued and ready to play. Qualification matches are going to be the longest part. This is where teams compete for a spot at the elimination matches. Elimination matches are different from qualification matches where there are only 4 alliances. Each alliance has a captain who can select 1 through 2 other teams for the alliance. Elimination matches are a best-of-3 system where each team plays 2 to 3 games to attempt to move on to the finals. After that is the closing ceremony where the judges hand out awards, and finally, after the end of the long day, you get to pack up and go home. Gracious professionalism is the way that you should act and is held very highly in any first program. Gracious professionalism means to respect others and help them in any way you can. It is important to uphold gracious professionalism because judges look for teams to excel in it, and it builds respect for other teams outside of your team and helps keep you included in all awards. Make sure to give help wherever you can and don't be afraid to ask other teams for help. And I'll open it up to any questions, which you can either say out loud or send them in the chat.
We did have a question answered in the chat during that section. So we were asked, is Notion totally free or is there a paid option? The response was Notion has both a free and a paid plan. The free plan is fairly limited, but can also work just fine if your organization system is less complex. All right, looks like we may not have any questions there, so we are going to talk a little bit about the engineering portfolio. What is it and why do you need it? The portfolio is essentially a condensed summary of your entire season up to the point of competition. So you want to pick out a few of your highlights and take a little snapshot of them and convey as much information as you can. So there are a few requirements for that. You have 15 maximum pages of content plus one cover page that contains information on your team number, team name, hometown school district, whatever area you're affiliated with, the year, and your logo if you have one. So that makes sure that your cover page doesn't have too much information on it or it will count as a portfolio page, and judges are not allowed to look at anything beyond the first 15 pages they receive. So if you have too much on your cover, you may lose out on a page of content, so be careful about that. Our breakdown generally looks something like this. So you have first our cover page, 3-ish pages on our team overview, who's on it, what are we doing, and goals, both individually and as a team. Then we have our engineering or build section, which is around 6 pages. So has all the stuff about our mechanisms, the various iterations they've gone through, everything, all the testing we've done, everything to do with how our mechanisms got to the point where they are now. The programming section, which is around 2 pages, has everything about our algorithms, our autonomous programs, all the cool stuff that our programmers do to make our robot the best it can be. And our outreach section, which is around 4 pages, that has to do with all of the community events that we've organized or attended, all of our professional outreach, all of the outreach we've done with other first teams or individuals, just everything we do outside of our team to reach out to everybody around us. The goal of your portfolio is to fit as much information as possible into a condensed space without overwriting. So you want to make sure that you have all of your big points, all of your highlights, include everything that was important for your season, but don't cram stuff in there. There is a minimum font size of 10, so you can't just write really tiny and put a bunch of stuff in there. You want to make sure that you have only the most important information in there, but that you include all of the most important information. So think of a one-pager first. Like if you had one page to describe your team, what would you put on there? And then you can take that list of things that you think is very important to cover and expand that as necessary to convey it to the judges. Try and distribute the elements, build, programming, outreach, etc., as much as possible. Keep it even. If you're a well-rounded team, you are much more likely to be considered for Inspire. So you want to make sure that you have evidence that you've been paying attention to every area of the first competition. Here are a couple of our portfolio pages from last year. So we have one on the design of our output mechanism, and all of the iterations it went through, some equations that we did to decide how much torque was needed to operate it, some data on the prototypes and how well they performed, the professional connections that went into that. As you can see, there are a lot of words, but there's also a lot of big pictures on there. Visuals are also very important. And then we have a page on the community education that we did. Also a lot of words on there, but you can see we've got a big old chart with all of the things that we did, all the people we connected with, all the hours that we spent, plus labeled pictures. So that's kind of what portfolios, this is the portfolio that won us the Think Award, which is the portfolio-based award at the Ohio State competition. So this is kind of what high-performing portfolios look like nowadays. Finally, documentation. You are going to want to keep careful track of everything you do, so take pictures and video of all your testing. You want to look carefully at what each part of your robot looks like at every iteration. That way you can show how you've progressed, how much you've learned, what your initial design was, how it's changed. Write everything down. So if you're doing tests, if you're doing equations, if you are just prototyping, everything needs to be documented so that both from a team perspective, you can look back, see what you were doing, see if it worked. If you have the same problems again, you're able to resolve them using the same solutions. You want to make sure that you know what it is that you were doing and how well it worked, as well as for the portfolio and for the presentation, you are better able to explain what it was that you did and why it did or didn't work. And then make sure everyone has access to all of that documentation. You want to make sure that anybody who needs it is able to tell what you were doing and how well it worked and what it is that they need to do differently, if anything. Next, numbers are super, super important. So we like to refer to this as quantitative versus qualitative data. So quantitative data has to do with numbers. It's how fast a mechanism moves, how many game elements it's able to move per a period of time, how many pounds it can lift, versus qualitative data, which might be like a pass-fail test, um, something that either happens or it doesn't. So that both of those are important for the portfolio, but quantitative data tells the judges more about what it is that you were looking for. To that note, it has to be accurate and well tested. You can't just slap a number on there. You need to test multiple times for every single mechanism, and then take your averages and use that for your actual data. And then you have to use consistent metrics. If you're comparing prototypes for a single mechanism, you have to make sure that you're measuring them on the same scale. So say you're looking for an intake that needs a certain amount of speed, you might look at two different intakes, and one of them can run 6 game elements per second, and one can run 2. Good luck finding an intake that runs that fast, but theoretically, you're going to want to use that same metric rather than one of them spins at 90 rotations per second and one of them takes in 2 game elements. That's not a helpful comparison. And then you're going to want to look at spreadsheets and graphs and other visual ways of organizing your information, because those demonstrate the process of gaining that information. They document each test one at a time and make sure that every single step of the process is shown and that you know what all was going on. Keeps your data well organized, as I said. Make sure that everything is able to be read and understood. So you want to also make sure that those are labeled. If you're doing a graph, your axes need to have labels on them. Just make sure that all of that is good. Visual data is great for the portfolio because it shows what it is that you were doing and how it worked without the judges having to read a whole paragraph about it. And then your branding is also super important. So, make sure that your team colors are visible throughout the portfolio. Slap your logo on especially the cover page. Make sure that everything fits the theme of your team's documentation. Like we have, our specific colors and fonts that we use for everything, and that does include our portfolio. You want to be as recognizable as possible at all times. All right. Any questions regarding anything we've gone over so far? You can say them out loud. You can drop them in the chat. We are looking to answer those if you have them.
The question is, any tools we can use to write the portfolio? How can we make our portfolio more attractive?
So for tools to use to write the portfolio, we just use Google Slides and then we change the page layout so that it's the size of a standard sheet of printer paper. And then we just print from there. So we are able to move around images, graphics, text boxes fairly easily. And that allows us to format our portfolio effectively and kind of keep it all in one place. Making the portfolio more attractive, if you're talking about visually attractive, just make sure you have pictures of, everything that you've been doing throughout the year. Keep your colors consistent, keep your fonts consistent. Just generally make sure that everything is, I'm going to say the word consistent a lot here, consistent throughout, because that consistency will allow judges to transition more smoothly so it looks better rather than, catching their attention on each individual thing. If you're talking about making it more attractive as an award winner, you want to make sure you have a lot of useful information in there. You don't want any filler. You want to be talking about what it is that makes your team special and the journey you've taken throughout the season. So you want to make sure that your portfolio illustrates sort of the arc of your team. So talk about your goals, the steps you took to achieve them, how far you've gotten on those, and then the journey of each individual mechanism. So basically make sure that you have a lot of relevant information that also fits award categories.
I'm going to, hello, this is John Rasmussen, one of the mentors for the team. Let me add a couple of comments that Jamie is, to add on to Jamie's. If you want to use an AI tool, a chat GPT or something like that, there are rules around how you have to declare that. So make sure if you're doing that, we don't. We have the kids write everything up. But if you do that, make sure that you follow the rules accordingly. And then the other one is if you're printing your portfolio, make sure you're using a really good printer because that will then make things crisp and clean and have that look, and maybe even spend a little more money on a nice paper, clay-based paper or something like that that really makes things pop for the attractiveness. So
Both very good points. Yeah, I believe it was just last year that generative AI was first allowed to be used in the portfolio. So yeah, there are very specific rules on that. It is definitely a good tool if you want to use that and you're not, the greatest at writing. But yeah, make sure that you are following the rules on that. Also, if you want to make your portfolio more attractive as an award winner, make sure that it illustrates your journey up to the current moment. So that doesn't mean, you make it for your first competition and you're done. You have to then add things as you move through. So, your first qualifier of the season, you have maybe all the stuff you did over the summer and your first iteration of your robot. But then if you make changes to your robot or you do more outreach between your first and second qualifier, you want to make sure that that makes it into your portfolio in order to make sure that the judges can see that you are still growing and changing and improving throughout your entire season and it's not just, a one and done type of thing.
I think there's another question that's been asked.
Oh, sorry. The question was, what kind of binder / folder do you put your portfolio in?
I can't give you a brand, unfortunately. We just use a pretty standard, like, white folder, with some laminated sleeves in there, and then we just put our pages into those sleeves, plus, put the cover on the actual front cover of the binder. Nothing fancy, you can just use a pretty simple folder. Just make sure you don't tear the sleeves. They are very thin and easy to break.
And we do use one that has like sleeves that you slide the pages into so we can change them out as they
Yes.
go to different competitions through the year. We've seen teams use 3-ring binders. So really kind of whatever you have and fits your pages well, but just keep that in mind when you're defining your print margins of what kind of sleeves are going in and what will be visible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Nothing fancy. You can find it at any office supply store, I promise.
All right, so now we're going to be going over some of the specific judged awards. So the judged awards in order from most significant to least significant go the Inspire Award, Think, Connect, Innovate, Control, Motivate, Design, and then some other awards like the Judges Award, Promote Award, and Compass Award. So first, the Design Award. This award is about the look and feel of the robot and how your design concepts work well together, both practically and visually. So some smaller things that we did to fit this award, we're using a lot of 3D printed and custom parts that we made for our robot, our specific mechanisms. We kept a consistent design process, and we took inspiration from industrial design, and we stayed away from short-term fixes to not compromise the look or the how your robot works. And some more in-depth things that we've done to fit this award include having a design section in our portfolio to detail our design process, as well as having test data showing the consistency of our mechanisms. We also use CAD to design every part of the robot before we even build it. And we parallel prototype to find the best mechanism and combination of those mechanisms that work well physically and fit the size restrictions. Next, the Motivate Award. This award is sometimes called the Team Spirit Award. We've seen that this award is more about teaching the public about FIRST. So things like participating in outreach events centered around the community and other FIRST teams and spreading FIRST to outside of that bubble. So some events that we've done that fit this category include our FTC rookie workshops, community events such as farmers market and the library visits and stuff like that, a youth 3D printing workshop, and Girl Scout workshops. This award is important because it's about spreading the ideals of FIRST and getting more younger generations interested in FIRST. And that means it can also lead to younger FIRST teams being created. So like FLL Discover, Explore, and Challenge teams, which acts as a pipeline for more kids to get into high school FTC. So next, the Control Award. This is kind of just the programming award. So it's about your innovative aspects of your code and how it works well with the drive team to maximize your points. So some smaller things that we've done to fit this award are spending a couple weeks before the competition perfecting our auto and our teleop, getting it super consistent, and working with our drivers to make sure that they have the easiest job possible. So like driver automation. We also explain our auto paths and create really consistent autos. Some more in-depth things that we've done to fit this award is using sensors on all of our mechanisms to improve our robot's performance, and again, take a little less work for our drivers and give them the least work as possible. We also wrote our own PID, have motion profiling, and write our own odometry, as well as other complex algorithms. This award, an extra requirement that you have to have is the Control Award submission form, where you're basically just going to outline your code, explain what everything does, which that might be different for each competition that you go to. So next is the Innovate Award. This is about the originality of your design elements and your mechanisms. So that could be one super out of the box crazy mechanism or multiple different mechanisms. And it doesn't necessarily have to work all the time to still fit the award. So some smaller things that we've done to fit this award are using our own 3D printed and custom parts and highlighting the path to the design and like why we figured out that worked the best in your portfolio. Some bigger things that we've done to fit this award are having a detailed and diverse brainstorming process, get all those different ideas out there, and taking extra time to try out more innovative ideas, and ensuring that your mechanism works consistently after it's built. So next is the Connect Award. This is about connecting with professionals and spreading FIRST outside of out to professionalisms in the real world. So some events that can fit this category include facility, factory, and business tours, listening to presentations from professionals, and utilizing company resources to improve your robot. So like having custom parts printed or cut out by different companies. So it's important because it teaches professionals about FIRST, which can lead to sponsorships and mentorships. So sponsorships are financial support for your team. It could also be something physical like a program license or building materials. And mentors help your team learn about real world STEM problems and utilize real world solutions within your game and the team. Next is the Think Award. This is about showing your engineering journey throughout your season and documenting it in your engineering portfolio. It has an emphasis on overcoming problems and learning. So some things you would like to include in your portfolio include some timeline of your robot development and all your iterations and different learnings throughout the process, as well as a lot of testing data. It's important because it's basically a complete documentation of all your different accomplishments and struggles throughout the season, and it highlights your team's ability to adapt and work together. And focusing on documentation helps the team stay more organized and helps unify the team. So finally, the Inspire Award. This is about being well-rounded and consistent in all of the other categories. And it means your team represents the ideals of FIRST and the core values. It's important because it shows your team fully embodies the ideals of FIRST, and it means students focus on multiple different areas of STEM. So you approach it by doing just everything we've talked about so far and keep it more in the back of your mind and focus on all the other award categories, because all the other awards will get you to win this award.
So it looks like we have a question in the chat. How
Excellent.
many of each award are given out each year? Is there a limit of how many teams can receive each award? So with the exception of league meets and scrimmages, which don't have judged awards, one award is given out at every competition. And if the competition is one of each award, excuse me, is given out at every competition. And depending on the size of the competition, there may be either one or two runners up to that award. So every single one of the judged awards is awarded at every competition. Depending on your region, I believe most regions now are what we call share the wealth. So a team cannot win more than one award at a competition, but the number of awards given out is not limited, other than, as I said, there is one of each given at every single competition, plus some runner-up awards.
Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about the Inspire at different levels?
Sure.
Meaning that you can only win it once at a level.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So the Inspire Award is again still awarded at every single competition, but say you're at a qualifying tournament, you're second or third of the year, and you already won the Inspire Award at a previous competition, you cannot place for Inspire until you reach the next level of competition, which is the regional level. So the same team cannot win the Inspire Award at multiple competitions on the same level. You can, however, be an Inspire runner-up at multiple competitions, so long as you haven't already won. All right, if we don't have any more questions, then we are going to go ahead and finish up. Thank you all for taking time out of your day for coming to listen to us talk. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions or issues, either right after this workshop or anytime throughout the season. We absolutely love interacting with the FTC community and helping out as much as we can. We are on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram as @Bionic Tigers FTC. We're not on there a whole lot, but we're trying to get a little bit better, at least on Instagram. And then you can email us at bionictigers10464@gmail.com. That is probably the quickest and most reliable way to get in contact with us if you have a direct question. And next week on Wednesday, August 7th, we have our 4th and final workshop about FTC programming in Kotlin. So an email with details about that, including the Zoom link, will go out sometime later this week with also just the follow-up email for this workshop since they're so close together. That's the last slide. Again, thank you all for coming. Feel free to drop any last-minute questions. But that's all that we have for you today.